What's up, guys? Get started in just a minute. Let's look at the higher time frame, see what's going on for the week. What's up, Tim, Dave, Matty G? All right, let's do this. So I'm just going to start with the weekly, actually, just so we can see where we're at. So I don't know if this specific chart, yeah, see this one cuts off a little bit early. Let's go out to Steam. We'll check out FXCM, just so you guys can kind of see the overall bigger picture here. You can see that essentially, like, we've pushed off, obviously come back down in on the weekly. Now, obviously, we can see that there is some form of, sorry, I gotta get my magnet tool off here. You can see that we have some sort of demand that kind of sits here, or possibly false demand. And the reason I can say that is because we do get to take on liquidity. We've pushed up. Technically, we've seen an order flow shift. The problem with it is that this low essentially fails to take out this high, obviously deeming this as weak. And this doesn't take anything really that relevant out. It looks like a higher time frame grab on liquidity above these highs. And then it looks like we're going to eventually start to taper down, at least the way that I'm sort of interpreting this from the higher time frame. Now, it's obviously on a weekly time frame, a lot of different things can happen intraday, but it's just good to have an idea of sort of how these things are framing up, what the next big play in the market is. I think that we've seen a half decent run here. I think we're going to start getting hung up, whether it be on this actual weekly candle that rests in here, or potentially this weekly range, and then end up tapering back down. So a little bit of time to obviously develop further. Our job is to obviously react to the market and not try to predict it. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of these guys. So this is where that demand sort of sits. So you can see that we're right in the extreme of it. We have had an order flow shift. Now it does look like price is essentially reacting to this supply range right here that's resting right after the break. I would still call this basically a flip zone where we had interactions with demand and supply trying to take over. So yeah, we're just running across. We've essentially tapped into this last week. And as it stands right now, you can see that we have the daily sort of order flow shift right here. We've come back into the daily sort of supply zone that created the order flow shift. I think reasonably at this point, I'm definitely going to be looking to see what happens around this sort of interaction zone, whether or not we decide to make a new leg to the upside, and possibly come deeper into this overall supply up here, or potentially running this into deeper portions of maybe this POI down here. But we can definitely expect to see some sort of a, whether it be a pullback or a potential new high, going into deeper areas of supply. But like I said, when you have the higher time frame, in our case, the weekly, looking over to the left-hand side, you can obviously start to see what expectational order flow would suggest, and that's obviously to put in a new low at some point. It's just whether or not we have the liquidity built to be able to actually push this down right now, which I don't think is the case. I think the reasonable sort of approach, or a couple of the different reasonable approaches, would be if and when we tap into either this demand right here, this demand right here, if we come up and then have an order flow shift to the downside, the theory is that if order flow shifts at a newfound structural level, deeming this basically a strong high, the idea is that these lows will get ran. So just have to wait and see how this ends up kind of developing further. We don't really control these things, but we'll get all the clues in and around here and play out our edge. Now, again, like the other option that I'm sort of looking at is if and when we come down into here, we get the order flow realignment, we can then start swinging for the supply zones up here. And then in theory, if this fails to take out anything relevant to the left-hand side, we can expect this high to probably get ran into deeper portions of these supply ranges, and then start to look at what potentially we could look for higher time frame sells. So yeah, I don't want to say that I have a bullish bias by any means. Obviously, like we're very much trending downwards. I think how my higher time frame narrative would probably get switched up would be once we punch in a new low, we punch in a new high, and then fail to take out this low, which would kind of give us that double confirmation that we are trying to move further into deeper levels of this leg. But yeah, until that sort of happens, we're just going to remain with a higher time frame sell bias in terms of just higher time frame expectational order flow. And until we get proven otherwise, and for me at least, to start considering this as a higher time frame pullback or possibly even trend reversal, I would want to see at least 2 confirmation points confirming that these lows are going to become strong areas where demand is forming. So yeah, like I said, these Sunday sessions are meant to just kind of give you a better picture of what's happening with the larger players in the game, and not necessarily worry too much about intraday work. Don't forget to look at, like obviously we use the 4 hours, our primary sort of trend mapper, and then we look to line the 15-minute up with it. But the bottom line is if you don't know what's happening with the real money in the market, it's very difficult to get on the right side. So until we get proven otherwise, I'm going to remain with a higher time frame bearish sort of order flow, but we need to essentially see the confirmations that are required to be able to start running this low. And I think we need to generate liquidity across here. And the only way that we will generate that liquidity, again, is only if we see order flow realignment up here to be able to prove that these highs right here are going to be stronger than these lows. And we're just basically running this as inducement to be able to take out the structural lows. So yeah, we're not going to bother, like we can just jump down onto the 4 hours super quick and just have a quick peek at this. But you can kind of see what's happened, at the end of yesterday. We kind of have this sweep in, immediate V-shaped recovery. We've tapped into sort of this extreme supply right above liquidity as well. If you just take your marker across, we've swept above it. Now, could we potentially sweep a little bit higher? It's not off the cards. We just need to react to what the market is sort of telling us. And that's why we use all these different confirmations to be able to get involved. So as it stands right now, we've tapped in. Let's just jump down onto the 15 just for a second. Just go back. Just mark that 4 hour, 240 supply. Jump down to my 15. Yeah, so you can see the really heavy order flow shift that we've gotten, and that's basically the trades that we talked about on Friday, where we did see the order flow shift. We had a level to take, boom, ran as inducement, and then dropping down into sort of like these new lows. Now, when you look at this, you can essentially see the 4 hour structural logo right here. We can also see 15-minute structural lows where we've basically broken through swing structure. So when we look at this, you can start to kind of decipher what that next move in theory should be. Now, is this just a liquidity grab right here to be able to then push price into here to potentially move up higher? We're not going to know until we kind of get down into these regions. So as it stands right now, looking at a position to get into possibly Asia tonight. I don't think there's going to be anything that sets up tonight personally, but getting into maybe tomorrow's New York session or even London session, the idea is that we're going to want to see at least the break of structure to be able to create a new POI, right? Otherwise, what's going to happen is if you're selling from here right now, if we just leave from right here, you're selling from a weak area, right? We don't necessarily know that this is going to hold. We could very much run the high and then start going down again. So just be mindful of the fact that like these confirmations are what's going to be able to decipher whether or not we should be getting into any long-term sells here. So for me personally, I'm not looking for longs. I'm aligned with higher time frame order flow right now. Looking to basically see this structural low go, and then ideally I'd like to see some form of inducement here to then sweep up into the deeper portions of this POI, and then look for this to come down into new territory lows. So that's pretty well it for today. Yeah, I've said this in the past. These are pretty short and sweet at this point. It's just looking at higher time frame stuff, understanding how our time frames sort of correlate together. Right now, we're in a position where we could potentially see new expectational order flow lows, but obviously we need to see how delivery ends up forming up here. Now, we can't discredit longs either. So ultimately, what longs would look like, just go back out to our 4 hour. What longs will look like here is if we see this as an order flow realignment, again, just have to play devil's advocate here and be able to see both sides of the market. If and when we come down into this region, obviously, let's say that we have 15-minute point right here, we realign like this, we can assume that these highs could potentially get ran, or at least this high right here, because if we see a 15-minute order flow shift at a level that is deemed to be weak, the idea is that maybe money is coming into the market to be able to push this a little bit higher, possibly deeper into this POI to create liquidity for the next move down, right? So just be mindful of all these different maneuvers that you would have to potentially buy or sell into, and understand where the next liquid region would be to basically be able to fund the opposing direction move. Are there any questions about the forecast for today? Or pretty straightforward? Drop a 1 if it's pretty straightforward, and 2 if you've got a question specifically about the forecast. And again, it doesn't mean that we're going to be right here. It's just we're trying to play both sides of the market to just kind of understand how to be situated for both sides. And yeah, that's it, guys. So, and don't just take my word for it. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, but understanding how to react to any and all situations that present themselves puts you in a lot better position going through the week. So looking at the higher time frame, don't forget, even on Mondays, guys, or Tuesday, set a reminder on your calendar and say, hey, let's look at what the higher time frames do. How did the last couple daily candles print? Understand what's happening, right? Understand where the momentum in the market is. We don't want to be trading against momentum or order flow. So that's pretty well it. I'll get this uploaded for you guys shortly. I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 5:15 a.m. Eastern time. And yeah, have a good week, guys. I'll catch you guys in a bit.